All right, I think we're live. All right, welcome back, Holly. We said the prayer and we're getting started.
All right, thanks. Sorry, I'm going across the Indian reservation, so I might be in and out.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to give us, kind of a quick synopsis? What is the case study about? What's going on?
Well, this case study is about the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, the company. And matter of fact, it's the way I saw it, to summarize it, it's got two main uh, protagonists here. I would say people who are leading action. It's James McBride, who's faced with the challenge of his career. So he's been successful in Asia, where he has led the company. And now with Washington opening a new hotel, and he faces some challenge, but he's got in front of him, uh, he's got Collins. He doesn't believe that he has I would say what it takes to take the company forward. So it's kind of undermining McBride. He doesn't really believe in his ability. That is concerned actually whether the 7-day countdown process and whether McBride will honor the symbol of the Ritz Hotel. So it goes further. So the whole thing goes on to finding out whether McBride will be successful in opening of Washington Hotel, and whether he will maintain the culture of the company. So it's evolved around these two people, and of course we got the employees who come in, who been employed, and on the short-term notice, and you have to learn things within 7 days, and it's very critical. How can people learn something in 7 days? So these are the questions we have to answer, and but otherwise it's all about the hotel business, how they achieve the excellence. So anyway, can somebody say something else?
I think that was a pretty good summary. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. One of the first questions that we need to go over is basically finding out what is the issue. What is the main issue? What is it an organizational problem? Is it a technical problem? What's the main problem here?
I think that question can have multiple sides to it. Because honestly, as I read the case, I didn't see a major problem with the way the company was being ran or with the way he had been opening stores. For me, the main problem came between McBride and Collins and their disagreements on what should happen with the store in Washington, D.C., which led to the problem of having one store that had different characteristics than all the other stores, is what I saw. Because if they were to make this one store so much better, or one hotel so much better than the other ones, how they'd have to change all the other hotels, that way they're not disappointed when they go to a different hotel. That's how I looked at it, so I thought that was a major problem, as well as the 7 days of training, which was really short.
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry, Jody, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think it was more of an inter-organizational between Millennium Partners and the Ritz-Carlton, having two different, opinions, I guess, on how to train the employees, how long to train the employees. The thing that got me was that the Ritz-Carlton had been doing this. They said they'd had this great success with this 7-day thing in the past, and so I'm wondering why suddenly it's a problem for a partner if they know this is how Ritz has been doing things for so long.
I think it's a problem because, like Laren said, this facility is bigger and it's different than everything else. There's more employees to cover the condos, to cover the restaurants, to cover the sports complex, and so even McBride himself was curious as to whether he was right or wrong about the 7-day thing. It had proved successful in the past, but he wanted to know if but McBride was pushing to get higher opening numbers, and wanted to reach that 80% capacity faster. And so, I think the challenge was what to do about the training. Whether 7 days was enough and just open at 50, or to go a little longer and open a little bit with more capacity, or who to listen to.
You know, you guys both pointed out that, Millennial really wanted to change the process, a successful process that Ritz-Carlton had established. And so you have to wonder, is it just because of money? Is it because they had donated, or they were partners? They had put, I think over the course of like 5 or 6 different hotels, $700 million into it. Is it, how much does it cost for influence? And, do they have the right to come in? I mean, part of me said, well, they partnered because obviously they liked each other's, the way that they ran. Millennial Partners was attracted to the Ritz-Carlton because of their standards, and that's why they partnered with them. And then it did. Do you guys? Well, actually, we'll come back to that, I guess, a little bit more. But so, just talking about Ritz-Carlton, what do you guys think is the competitive advantage that Ritz-Carlton has over other hotels?
I personally think that they have amazing customer service, just by the way, how much training that they go through to please the customer, the things they do for the customers when they come in. I think that their main advantage over them is the way they train their employees to handle the customers when they come in.
Another thing is that I've never stayed at a Ritz, but I've definitely heard of it. So the reputation is there because it's a high-end hotel that specializes in customer service, like Laren said, and they continuously win awards for all these different categories, and they just got their eye on the customer, and I think that helps them win these awards and helps them be successful.
Can I say something also?
Of course, Ellie, go ahead.
Thank you. In addition to what that has been said, also the culture of a company. This is something that takes them beyond compare. And the standard of service. I mean, for a company, I once worked in a hotel, I think 8 years ago. But after reading this, I was blown away. These are people, they don't call themselves, they say they are not servants. Profession is a service. And they call themselves ladies and gentlemen, just as the guests are. I mean, it's just amazing. So the culture is, it's actually exemplified not only in the company, but also in employees and leaders with that sense of identity. They belong, they breathe the company, and they think, everything they do is about the company. And that's amazing, very amazing. And they respect another thing also, the employees are being respected by executives. So they all come together in a chronology, in a synergy, and this is this group dynamic that's been reinforced. So what a good combination they have to make it a success.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point. If you guys are talking about service being, what sets them apart from their competitors, so what would you say that Ritz is actually selling? If they're not selling hotel rooms, are they selling their service? Are they selling an emotion? Are they selling a feeling? What are they actually selling? What is their target?
I felt like they were selling kind of the ambiance of the whole, I don't know, the whole feeling of the ritziness, if that's not too redundant, of the hotel.
Yeah, that's true. So they sell also the feeling. Remember again, we were told they have to make people welcome. During the training, new employee were told when they get into a room, the way they speak, they make people, as if they were in their home. It's not their place. It's become their place. The guest comes in, it's their place now. So they create a feel to such an extent. The guest creates a connection with a feeling. Falls in love with a hotel, and chances are they come back again. So they return them. So yes, the services they sell, but first and foremost, they create a relationship with the guest.
Okay, the relationship, that's a great idea. So we've got a relationship, the ambiance. Do you guys have any other things that you would like to add to that?
I would say that the thing they're selling is the hotel rooms. That's how they make their money. But at the same time, their customer service is what sells the rooms for them.
Okay. So they talked, and Ellie mentioned this too, about ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. So how do they create that, that atmosphere in only 7 days? Because if you think about it, the employees that they are bringing in probably are not accustomed to being called ladies and gentlemen or acting like ladies and gentlemen. So how do they take these people that are from a culture or a social cultural background that have nothing, probably has very little to do with ladies and gentlemen, and how do they transfer that entire ambiance in 7 days?
I think maybe if you see their potential, and you tell them about it, that they'll try to live up to it. And I think we do that in the church too. Is that we were told on my mission to picture everybody in a baptismal gown or whatever, and then there's stake presidents and Relief Society presidents and everybody just walking down the street. And if you treat people like they have that potential, then they're much more likely to try to live up to it. And so I think if you call them ladies and gentlemen, they'll do their best to be that way. I don't know.
I think that's a big part of it too, Connor. That was a good explanation on it. I also think they didn't really fully do it in the 7 days. I think they did it slowly over time after opening, and that's why they opened at such low capacity on the hotels, because they were still continuing to teach them. But another part of it mentioned that McBride would go to restaurants, high-end restaurants, and get service, and he'd leave them that card that would ask them to come interview. So he kind of knew what he was looking for. Some people already knew how to do that, at least on the job.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
No, I was just gonna say I thought it was interesting how I went to other places and just started stealing their employees. Hey, come work for me. I'll probably pay you more. So just come over here for a second. I just thought it was really interesting his business strategy of how he recruited people. But then again, it's a really smart thing to do. You're looking at people that have probably been in the business for a while, and you're saying, hey, come over here, you'll love your job because of the way we treat you. And it all goes back to they just showed them immediate respect that first day. I mean, you saw McBride down there. You saw the Schultz was down there the first day of training. So you see all of the big heads of the companies down training with the new employees. And I think that just shows, right off the bat, shows, hey, we're here, we care about you, and we respect what you're going to be doing for our company. And so I think that was a main part of instilling that culture of, hey, you're ladies and gentlemen, we're going to treat you like you are.
Did you guys find anything unusual about even the interviewing process, how they treated the potential employees during the interview process?
Yeah, it felt like they treated them like they treated their guests, so I think that was interesting.
I
They had
thought
people
that
standing there. Sorry, they had people standing there and greeting them as they would a guest and as they came in, and I can't remember if they served them something, some sort of mint. It could be confusing that with the airport, though.
no, I think
Jody,
you're right. I think you're right, Holly. They did give them mints, and they, escorted them from room to room, and they tried to, treat them, all of them, as if they were ladies and gentlemen. So as Connor pointed out, recognizing that they have the potential, and then, and then also treating them, that way. A lot of them probably had never been treated that way. The first time that, I remember how I felt the first time, we had a valet parking. I was going, wow, this is kind of interesting. I never even had that experience, and it does make you just feel differently. So letting them experience that was probably a good way to set the example of what they want all of their guests to experience.
Jody, I could not agree more with you. I really agree. Having worked in the hotel industry, they were expecting us, I was in the guest relation, they were expecting us to treat the guests to the best of our abilities, give everything we could. But yet, employees were not treated with this VIP treatment as they were treated at the Ritz Hotel. It's amazing. How would I feel if I was working there? That they respect me, they care about me. I will be infused to give it. To translate it in my work and make sure everybody who comes in have something to remember, and that they are welcome. And so it actually, they led the way. So as they came in, they led the way, just like a savior does. It touches people's lives, and then in return, people just follow suit. So there was some kind of delegation of how to look after people. So this is what they did well, and I did like it. Thank you.
Okay. So I think they did establish, I was amazed at their retention rates, as far as their employee turnover rates and things like that. Their employees were very loyal, or they are, I should say, still. So what would you say are some of the strengths of the leadership and values of the Ritz? Some of the strengths that the Ritz has as far as their leadership and their values.
I think all the upper management believes in, believes in the mission of the company, and I don't remember who it was, if it was Schultz or if it was Collins, but clearing the tables and training the employees how to, actually serve someone, and they did it perfectly. And they just all believed in, it wasn't just a job to them. I think it was how they wanted to live their lives, and I think that was a huge asset to Ritz-Carlton as the upper management, which is usually something you don't say about companies.
That's definitely true. And going off what Connor said, it's the caring aspect, I would say, is one of the values that Ritz-Carlton definitely had. They cared about not only their employees but the business itself, and they cared about the customers that came in and out of their doors. Every single one of them, they treated every customer the same, to a very high standard. Most hotels I've been to, it's just kind of like, yeah, I checked in, I went up, like no big deal. But I have a feeling if I were to stay at one of their hotels, it'd be a different experience. I'm just guessing. I'd probably never pay to stay at one of those hotels. I mean, at least not now.
Well, not only that, I liked the how they dealt with the problems, and they looked at it as a training problem rather than an employee problem, and they evaluated the situation and figured out what they could do to fix it.
I thought, Holly, that's a great point. I thought that was a very interesting approach because as humans, we just have a tendency to blame a person. Just say, oh, you messed up, you didn't do this. And instead they kind of stepped back and said, okay, this person did it because they're lacking training or they didn't, there was a purpose behind it. And they tried to approach that. And that probably made their employees feel that they weren't always on the defensive. They weren't always trying to protect their job or their whatever, so they were probably much more open about it. I thought that was a really great aspect. Can you guys think of any weaknesses that the leadership or values of Ritz?
I honestly couldn't think of any. Even going in to work with Millennium Partners, they let them have more say on the decor within the hotel and everything. I mean, he kind of only gave it a second thought when the guy was questioning the 7-day training. So I had a hard time with this one doing the write-up just because of that. I couldn't find anything that was a huge problem. Going from the reading with the influencer, the only thing that came to mind was maybe their rewards system, if they could do it. It mentioned every year they gave one outperforming hotel 5-night stay, was it, at the Ritz with $500 in spending money and round-trip airfare. And so I thought, well, that seemed extravagant. Maybe they could save money on that and just go down to smaller rewards. I don't know. That was one of the things that just stood out to me.
Hey, did you guys notice any other weaknesses in their values or in, the leadership philosophies or anything like that?
I think one weakness, I think you all gonna agree, it's between Collins and McBride. It's what Collins think is a bit superior to McBride, because if anything to go by, this is what he says. Let me just read what I actually got from Collins. I didn't see anything. I didn't find any information on McBride criticizing Collins, but it's more Collins. And this is what he said, for instance. Just trying to get it for you.
Okay, Connor. Connor or Laren? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you not finished, Ellen? I'm sorry.
Okay, this is what Colin said. I've got to tell you that I love James McBride. James McBride is just fabulous. He successfully opened up lots of Ritz-Carlton. But a year from now, what are you saying? But a year from now, as if he's concerned, he's going to make a mistake. So they both need to align with the company policy, have a clear vision, a clear cut. Otherwise, it will jeopardize the future of the company. So this is where I think there's one small conflict they have to solve as leaders. The two of them coming together, aligning together. So going forward, they have to be one, not two. They have to work as a team.
Okay. Connor or Larry, did you guys notice any weaknesses in their leadership or values?
No, not really. I don't even think it was a full-on disagreement yet between McBride and Collins, because And I don't know. The only thing I don't know is where the line was drawn, and I don't know if Collins or McBride knew that either. Like where the line is, where Collins can say and have input. And so I would ask if I was McBride, I would ask Schultz how many decisions I should give to Millennium Partners. But that was the only, like, I don't know if he was unsure about that, or I would just go to the president of the company and ask what Millennium's role is in decision making, or if they're just a financing partner.
I
All
mean,
right.
I would love to share something, but really, I've been thinking about it for like the last 5 minutes and can't come up with anything. So I really just don't. I really just don't. I don't see any. All of their values to me are right on spot. I don't think there would be a better company to work for out there. If there is one, I would love to work for them.
All right. I think, the only thing that I personally could come up with was very much what Connor said, is that some of those relationship boundaries should have been established, almost at the time they became a partnership, that's the only thing that I could think of is that they didn't draw the boundaries very clearly, say, this is what you'll do, this is what I'll do, and then adhere to it. But that was kind of a minority, a very minor thing that can still be fixed, in my opinion. But, I thought for Collins to bring it up this late in the game, when things are pretty much already established was, probably not the best way to approach it. But, yeah. All right, so I'm just going to flat out ask, do you guys think that McBride should extend the 7-day countdown, or do you think he should leave it the way it is? And why?
What I suggested was, and my write-up was that they move to a 10-day just to get that extra training for the condominiums and to give managers more one-on-one time with the people they're supposed to be training. But if you go much more than 10 days, then I think you're going to lose a lot of interest, and you're going to start doing things over and over again, and it's going to get really monotonous. And so I think after 10 days, if you're not doing new things, then it's worthless to keep going. So after those 10 days, then I would open up maybe a 55 or 60% capacity instead of the 7 days and the 50% capacity. That's what I recommended. But I wanted to make sure that McBride either told Collins that he was in charge and this was his decision, or some conversation happened between the two to establish, who was in charge. Whose idea was it really, and I don't know.
I said they should keep it at the 7 days, but also that they needed to kind of reevaluate what they do in those 7 days. I felt like all that rah-rah stuff, the pep rally stuff, could have been, I don't think it needed a full day. I don't know what else, like they have the speeches and everything, and I'm thinking, as an employee, if I'm sitting there listening to speeches, I'm probably going to, I don't know. It's just too much. I was like, they need maybe start training earlier. Spend 1 day focusing on the culture of the company, and then I feel like as they get the hands-on training, that's what's really gonna ingrain the culture into them. That was my.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in my paper, I put that they should extend the period to 2 weeks, but that's just because it felt really well with what I was trying to argue. But me personally, I would keep it at 7 days, just for the fact I know I kind of played the system a little bit.
I've done that before. I do that.
I really believe it. As long as I'm not the only one, we're okay. So the reason I argued it would be 2 weeks in my paper is just because additional training is always good, and to let them travel to it if there's one close by, let them travel to there and like get the feel of how things actually run when people are in the business. That's the only reason. But for me, I think 7 days is plenty of amount of time to train people in their jobs. I mean, you look at you look at the time that you get spent at training at any other job, and really, the training that you spend isn't really more than 7 days, even when it's an established business. So they'll put you in there and say, okay, this is what you're doing, do it. And so, honestly, I think 7 days is plenty of time.
I would also stick to 7 days because I think it's more about quality than quantity. So whether it's 10 days, 20 days, does it really matter? Uh, but I think 7 days will be okay, but they can cut down maybe on the speeches because people get bored. As you know, the more speeches they get bored. And the more, I think, most importantly, they will have to engage people more, engage them like they're doing like training, engaging them, and people, they thrive for that. So 7 days has made Ritz Hotel who they are. That's what they believe. So I think you have to keep it, but perhaps improve on that.
Okay, so it seems like, I mean, we kind of have a variety of answers, so I'm just going to take both aspects of it. So for those who said, you know, let's keep it the way it is, and Laren, you can pitch in whichever side you feel most comfortable with. For those people that say, you know, we should keep the 7-day, you know, established process, what expectations do you think that customers have? You know, let's say you're the first customer on the first night. What expectations do you think they have?
I think they're looking for a well-run hotel and perfect service.
So you guys think that even if it's the first day, everyone is going to expect the absolute perfect experience?
I know for me, as a customer walking in, I would. It wouldn't matter to me if it was their first day or their 70th day or their 5th year of operation. I would want them to treat me as they would 5 years from now. And I think that's the importance of the training that they do, is that every customer is going to expect that. And they're going to want to say, okay, I went to this Ritz-Carlton here, and this is how they treated me. They need to treat me the same way here, even though it's their first day. And granted, there's going to be some people that are nicer than me and say, well, I'll give them a little bit of leniency. But I think that on your first day of operations, you should be just as good. I mean, obviously the employees are still going to be being trained, but they should have the same atmosphere and the same standards that they will a year from today.
Excuse me. One thing that they mentioned is that, you know, the on-the-job training. Basically, the first day the hotel opened is when they get their first on-the-job training. And, you know, it said that it can take up to 4 months, I think the case study said, to actually get to the, you know, desired occupancy levels. How long on-the-job training do you guys think it really should take or does take for these employees to get up to speed?
Shoot, now let me just backtrack a little bit. Not really backtrack, but honestly, you never fully learn your job. There's always more. There's always something more to learn about the job that you're doing, no matter what industry you're in. I mean, obviously, if you're going around making beds, you're going to get better at it to a certain extent, but then you're still going to learn and progress and grow in other things within the company. You're going to get more responsibility. So you're always learning on the skills that you have. And so really, yeah, sure, you might learn one thing, but then there's other things that you can learn within the same respect. And so it just depends upon your duty. Some will learn faster than others, learning curves, different people, different responsibilities.
I have to agree with Laren. I feel like, especially in the service industry, you never know what a customer's going to throw at you, and you have to be able to adjust to it. So I guess it's I liked their little review process of when errors did happen. They can reevaluate how could we have handled this better. They follow up with the customer and find out if, you know, if it was resolved to their liking. And I think that's an excellent tool for them to use, and it makes the customer know that, yeah, we messed up. Are you still happy? Are you happy with how we resolved it? So I don't think you can really put a time frame on it. I think you throw them in there and they have to learn hands-on.
Okay, now this next question, it's actually, I'm reading it verbatim, so I think it's a little snappy question, but this is the way it's worded. It says, do you really want to be learning at the expense of your customers?
I feel like every job does that. I feel like, I mean, every day you're learning something new, and you might make a mistake, but that's part of being human. You can't spend a year in training with no practical experience and expect to, even on your first day, to be perfect. So yes, I think you really would want to learn at someone's expense. You know, hopefully it's not a big mistake, but I don't think the theory of training transfers really well to the actual practice of doing the job.
That reminds me of a story, I can't even remember where I read it, but something about Warren Buffett, where he had, I don't know, some high executive had made a very costly mistake, you know, in the multi-millions of dollars. And he went into Warren Buffett's office fully expecting to be fired. And he actually said, you know, am I going to be fired? And Warren Buffett told him, he said, why would I fire you? I just spent, you know, $10 million training you. And so, I mean, I think that's kind of like Connor was saying, you know, sometimes that's how we learn. And those mistakes are, once you learn them, I think once you've experienced them, I guess you've learned them. So why is Collins pushing for a longer time frame? What does he think is going to happen?
From what I gathered, it sounded like he wanted to be able to open at fuller capacity. But I don't understand that. Just because you take longer to open if you're training them longer, or did he want to start training them earlier while the hotel's under construction? I couldn't understand his point of view.
Well, the thing that I didn't understand about his point of view is that it's going to be the same either way. Either you're going to spend more time training them beforehand and spend money that way, or you're going to train them for a short amount of time. And in my opinion, he has no room to say. He doesn't run the hotels. He doesn't know how the training goes. I mean, obviously he's been for a couple of trainings, but he's involved in the business, but he's from the other side of the, what was it, the enterprise, the owner, the whatever. The
property owner.
Thank you. He was the property owner, and so really property owners have, in my opinion, don't really need to have a say in how the business operates. Of course, if the business is a good business, it's going to make them money, so why does it matter whether the training's 7 days or 10 days or 20 days? As long as the business is making them money, that, in my opinion, that's all that really should matter.
Okay. So actually that brings us back to one of the questions that I asked earlier. So Millennial Partners had invested over $700 million in the growth of Ritz-Carlton hotels. So how much influence, if any, does $700 million get you? How much should they have expected as far as input into the way it's run?
Well, according to what I just said, none. But, I mean, obviously they need to have a little bit of input. If they know it's going to be a terrible idea, then they should probably say something about it. But for the most part, I really think it should be up to the company to decide. If the company's well established, it doesn't really matter what happens as long as, I mean, if I was managing I guess, property owner, as long as they're paying me money, I wouldn't really care if what kind of business is in there.
Do you guys think that size of investment does anybody else feel differently, that it should buy you some amount of influence?
Well, I think that you hit on it earlier about that being decided when they made the contract, how much they were going to say. They've allowed them to change the decor of the hotel. I think that's a big risk. Whether it's going to pay off or not, who knows? But it's still risky for Ritz-Carlton. They're known for what they say, the English hotel feel, and they're getting away from that. And so I think they've already had a lot of input.
All right. One of the final questions, well, was Connor the only one that said that we should extend it? But his was only by 3 days. It wasn't a huge amount of time. Is that right?
Yeah.
So just pretending that they were going to extend it, how long do you think employees could theoretically be trained before they just lost their momentum, their oomph, as you guys talked about earlier? What's the longest that would even work before they started having problems?
I think Connor had a good amount of time. The 10 days seems reasonable. They do all, maybe that's why they do all the rah-rah stuff, to keep them pumped up. I don't know.
Just bring in a few celebrities to sing some songs. You know, hey, we'll make it a concert out of it, and we can make it last 3 weeks.
I would die if it was 3 weeks long. Let's be real.
I would too.
That would be hard, huh? Okay. I think we'll go ahead and just kind of finish up real quick. One of the things that I was supposed to do was research and find out kind of what they do, or what, you know, how things turned out. I couldn't find exactly just a yes or no. However, I found an article about the Hong Kong Ritz-Carlton that opened in 2011, and there was an article about the employees were only going to have 7 days to train, you know, or they mentioned that in the article. So I'm assuming that because of that, this actually, the Georgetown one in Washington, D.C. actually opened in 2003. I couldn't even find that in the case study. I had to research that. But so that opened in 2003, and then in 2011 in Hong Kong, they were still using the 7-day. So I guess they decided to keep it, and they were actually still working with Millennial Partners. They are still, there are, I think, 7 hotels that they have opened together, one in Russia, India, Kazakhstan, Charlotte, Fort Lauderdale, LA, and Israel. They've all opened since the Georgetown one in Washington, D.C., and they were partners on them. So I guess they figured out how to make it work.
I tried to look that up myself. I couldn't find anything. So good to know.
Yeah, I had a hard time. I actually had to look at news articles, you know, and press releases because I couldn't find anything. But so I guess that's about it. Are there any comments? We'll let Holly get back to her traveling adventures.
A fun drive. Fun.
That's all I have.
So
Yeah,
we'll
I'm
be meeting.
Go ahead, Ellie.
So next week will be our last meeting on air, and I will be I'll organize and I will invite you on next week Wednesday.
Okay. Is Ellie doing it? I thought Jenny was doing it. Did I misunderstand that?
I can't remember.
Well, I can check the schedule really quick. I thought Jenny signed up to do it.
It does say Ellie. It does say Ellie was going to do it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
That check says me, so I will invite you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for doing this one, Jody. Appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast, and then I know, Ellie, you had some questions for me just about the major, so I'll stay on and we can talk, but I'm going to stop the broadcast now, okay?
Okay, thanks.
All right. Everybody have a good day.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.